Smile. 26 facial muscles it takes to create a smile. Contract and relax. In that one moment, you are relaxing your body and sending the message to your brain, sending you serotonin to keep you happy. You've been hearing a lot about serotonin tonight, and I'm going to talk to you about it some more. I have a long history in nursing, and what I can say to you for sure is that I am definitely in the people business, and I want to see you succeed. Succeed in believing in yourself, to tap into that potential and live your best life. I've had the opportunity for the past 10 years to specialize in mental health. And what I have found in my experience that the concept of self-esteem needs our attention. Self-esteem is at the core of what triggers our stress response. Let me explain. Your self-esteem is everything. First and foremost, it is the emotional attachments that you carry with you throughout your life experiences. You're not born with it. You change it, you build it, you redefine it based on what you choose to emphasize in each environment you're in. For example, your self-esteem is going to be very different in your social life as opposed to your work life, as opposed to your home environment, and of course, if you spend time with yourself and how hard you are on yourself. This is key because there may be areas in your life that you believe you are functioning at your best. And then there's other areas over here that is causing stress and activating that stress response. And this is what we're going to talk about. Stress-related illnesses are at an all-time high right now. 75 to 90% of medical visits to doctors have stress-related concerns. And the culprit is high circulating levels of cortisol in our systems. So much so that it is now considered the #1 public health enemy towards our health and wellness. And I think about that cortisol. That is our hormone that we are hardwired with biologically. It's a life-saving hormone. When it's functioning well, it serves for our sleep-wake cycle. For example, the cortisol in our system is at its highest when we wake up in the morning. It keeps us alert. It gives us that motivation to get going about our day. As our day goes on, cortisol levels need to be dropping so that we can rest and have a great sleep. Cortisol is also the hormone that is released in the stress response. So when our body feels it comes up against a threat, more cortisol is released. And to understand this, and it is so important to understand how you are biologically wired, because then and only then do you understand the importance of doing something about it. So the amygdala. This is back to basic anatomy and physiology, so bear with me. The amygdala, which is my favorite word to say. So I'd like everybody to say that word with me. Amygdala. Remember that word, because that is the oldest part of our brain. It's kept our ancestors alive in the fight or flight response. The amygdala communicates back to the primal form of communication, the emotional response. It responds to any threat, any perceived threat as well, and that's key, remember that. So the amygdala is a stress response. It triggers another part of our brain, the hypothalamus. The hypothalamus in our brain has a lot of functions. It acts like a boss, and it starts sending off signals of who needs to do what and what needs to get done. One of those functions gets to our pituitary gland in our brain. The pituitary gland then sends the message down to our adrenal glands. The adrenal glands are two little glands that sit on top of our kidneys, and that's where that added stress comes from. So this all happens very quickly. When that added cortisol is released, it takes fat and carbohydrate stores, breaks them down right away to give us that added get up and go energy to fight that threat. It takes blood sugar from our liver, circulates it around to help with that energy to keep us hardwired to be able to fight against that threat. It pulls blood flow from our distal limbs, our fingers, our toes. That's why when you're stressed, you might feel your hands or feet get cold or feel numbing and tingling sensations, because your stress response is pulling that added blood flow to your heart. It's making your heart pump harder. It's raising your blood pressure. It's keeping your electrolytes stable. It's keeping us very alert and very focused, so our reflexes are in overdrive. This is how it works. Say you're walking to work or walking down the street, and maybe today you're on the phone, you're texting, you're eating, not really paying attention. You step off a curb, all of a sudden a car is coming with no sign of slowing down. You see it, your visual stimuli, hits your amygdala responds, hits the hypothalamus, goes down pituitary glands to the adrenal glands to secrete cortisol, boom, you jump back, step off the curb, you're safe. Then it's going to take you a couple of minutes to get back to that balance. Your heart rate's going to be pounding, your breathing's going to be fast, you're going to be very aware of your surroundings. You may be shaky a little bit or you may be sweating. But the key is that you get back to balance. Now here's how we're going off track in today's world. Today, we are the most overstimulated, overscheduled population, and most of us are walking around in a constant stress state without even knowing it. Our bodies are really good at compensating for it, to a point, and it doesn't mean that the damage isn't getting done. For instance, psychological stressors that is causing our stress response, they're not going away. They're staying with us. We're thinking about them every day. Their worries, their thoughts. What happens when we can't get back to that balance is high levels of cortisol remain in our system. So all that fat and carbohydrate breakdown, it ends right here for protection. All that added blood sugar throws off our ratio of our insulin pump, increases the risk for diabetes and obesity. All that added pressure on our heart rate and blood pressure and electrolytes increases the risk for heart disease, heart attack, stroke. What once was an anti-inflammatory function of cortisol is now increasing inflammation in our bodies. Our immune system is taking a hit. We are becoming irritable, memory loss. New research is out linking high levels of circulating cortisol to an early diagnosis of Alzheimer's. It hits all the big ones. As well, high circulating levels of cortisol affect serotonin. You've heard a lot about serotonin tonight, and you know how important it is. In my world, serotonin is the most beautiful neurotransmitter of them all. It regulates mood, it regulates appetite, it regulates pain sensation. It has the ability as a happy brain messenger to keep us calm, keep us happy, keep us social, properly digest our food, and it's one of those beautiful endorphins that's released to help us when we become injured or pain. Working in mental health, it's very realistic that a low serotonin adds to anxiety and depression. Well, when someone is experiencing anxiety or depression, their self-esteem goes low as well. Then all of a sudden, every decision that needs to be made, every conversation that needs to be had is overwhelming, and it becomes a perceived threat. That perceived threat starts the vicious cycle of the constant stress response, so much so that it starts to affect our memory, our hippocampus. Our hippocampus in our brain is the #1 memory center in our brain, responsible for taking new, learned information, converting it to short-term memory, and then converting it to long-term memory. You take damage to the hippocampus, all of a sudden, the whole process is interrupted from learning new information, processing it, and recalling it. It leaves us at a loss for words. One thing about the amygdala is that it does not differentiate between types of stress, whether it's a physical, a psychological, a worry, doesn't know. What it knows is that we are visualizing that we are unsafe. Behind that emotional response is fear. Fear is a primal, powerful emotion, and it is what holds us back from truly getting out there and doing what we know what we're capable of. The fears of today's world can be anything from fear of not being good enough, fear of trying to meet added pressures at work, fear of the constant daily change we live in due to many, many factors, fear of what other people might think, fear of asking for help, or fear of admitting that we don't understand. With that fear, it can be crushing to a self-esteem. So why am I telling you all this? Because if anything, when you're thinking about it, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm now even more depressed than ever. But here's the thing. There needs to be an understanding of what is happening biologically in your body so that you have the power to do something about it. Knowledge is absolutely great. I'm a big fan. But having the tools to apply it for change, that's where the real power is. And one thing that helps with stress is body movement. When you look at the musculoskeletal system, it is the commanding center for our bodies. The central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. So any messages that are coming from the brain to the body, there's messages going from the body to the brain. The American Psychological Association supports that body movement can decrease muscle tension, thereby decreasing stress. How does this happen? Well, with the musculoskeletal system, it's such a quick reflex to the stress response. We're walking around like this. And again, the body's compensating for so long, we might not even realize it until one day we go to reach up into the cupboard or reach down to tie our shoes and we hurt ourselves. That just doesn't happen overnight. That happens from a stress state over a long period of time. It's just all of a sudden become exhausted. You may have heard that we are in the adrenal gland exhaustion stage because cortisol has been released so constantly. So I'm going to tell you a little story about what I've done to change my muscle tension and to relax. I spend a lot of time in my car. I drive 45 minutes to work and back. That adds about 2 hours onto my day. I do a lot of errands. I drive my daughter around. So I spend a lot of my time in my car. And what happens is I start to eat in my car or multitask in my car, which overall is not very healthy at all. So my morning would be running out the door, taking breakfast on the run, using my voice recorder on my phone, making lists of what I needed to do, emails I needed to answer, and of course, allowing myself to get upset and frustrated at the slow traffic. Well, living on an island where there's no divided highway and very few passing lanes, it's not hard to get frustrated. So by the time I got to work, I was already in fight or flight mode. And I was like, focus, focus, goal, don't look at me, I have to work. And my body was already tense. What I noticed is my hips were getting tight. I was starting to have sore trapezius muscles, sore neck muscles, headaches. And I thought, whoa, I love my job. What can I do to change it? Body movement therapy. Dance movement therapy has been used for decades, and it's used to help release tension in the muscles so that it can bring the message back to the brain, tell the hypothalamus to take a boss break, and send the amygdala on a vacation, because in reality, it's a safe environment. And so you can practice body movement anywhere you want. And by having this knowledge, not only are you aware of how the stress response happens, but it's also the tool that you can apply to do something about it. So tonight, I'm going to ask you to entertain me, and I'm going to ask you to participate in doing the exercise that I do while driving. So could I get a beat, please? Hopefully. There we go. All right. So in this moment, you can close your eyes because you're not driving, and just allow your body to move. Who doesn't like Michael Jackson? Come on. All right. And yeah, that's right. Just move. And when you think about it, don't think too much. And just do it with me. Here we go. Hello, shoulder. I said, hello, shoulder. There's my deltoid muscle. There's my deltoid muscle. And there's my trapezius. There's my trapezius. And there's my trapezius. Come on, there's my trapezius. And then maybe you're driving. And if you're driving, you can keep it safe. 10 and 2. Here we go. And what I really like doing is when I get to a street light and there's a turn-in lane, I go, hello, neighbor. Hello, neighbor. And when's the last time any of you have really felt your spine? Like really, really gave thanks to everything your spine does for you from the moment you wake up till the moment you go to bed. So we're gonna do this. Ready? Hello, serotonin. Hello, serotonin. All right, that's fantastic. And thank you so much for entertaining me and being a part of what I consider how to become your own personal inspiration. So what I want to leave you with is keep moving. Find your spark in everything you do and be inspirational for others. Thank you very much.